Hey everybody! Today's video is about packaging and shipping your orders. This is a frequently asked about topic amongst online business owners, so I thought I would share what I've learned about over the years and how I currently unpack and ship my orders. There are 3 objectives when packing and shipping orders. Number 1, the order arrives on time and undamaged. 2, it's cost effective and the packaging doesn't eat into your profit. And 3, it looks nice and makes the customer smile. How you package an order varies depending on the item you sell. If your profit margin is a little higher on your product, generally the packaging will be a little fancier. Number 1 is getting the order to your customer on time and undamaged. As far as carriers are concerned, I can only speak to shipping within the United States, and most of the time USPS is going to be your best option. However, if you have a larger and or heavier item to ship, sometimes other carriers can be cheaper. So it's best to shop around and make sure you're getting the best possible price. If you are selling on Etsy, definitely use their shipping labels. They are lower in price than if you were to go to your local post office and go to the counter or their little kiosk if your location has one of those. So definitely use their labels. Another important objective with your packaging is to protect the item from being crushed, getting wet, dirty, bent, or broken. So that's going to vary a lot depending on what you sell. So for example, if you are selling, let's say maybe a breakable item like a plate or a little vintage figurine, you're going to need a lot of bubble wrap, possibly packing peanuts, definitely a very sturdy box, and you'll want to look into that. This is just an overview, so I'm not going to be able to tell you how to package every single type of item that you might be selling. But of course, if you don't package it properly, you're going to end up having an order that arrives broken, and then you have to either refund or replace that. So it's better to spend the money on proper packaging up front. You have a happier customer, and that protects your profitability as well. If you're selling perhaps an art print or original art piece, that item becoming bent is obviously going to ruin it. So you'll want to make sure you have something like a chipboard or something like that on the back of the item, and then also something that, like a Ziploc bag like this, that keeps water from getting into that package. I'm sure most of us have the experience of occasionally an order we receive gets maybe left in a snowbank or in a puddle in our yard or in our flower bed, and it gets all dirty. So having something something simple like a little Ziploc bag is going to eliminate any potential ill effects of that sort of mail delivery happening. Another example would be something like this headband. This is a little cat ears headband that I sell in my shop, and when I ship these, first I put it into a Ziploc bag to keep it clean and dry. Then, once it's in that bag, it gets taped to just a scrap piece of cardboard. So as you can see, it's just a plain sheet of cardboard. When I receive packages in the mail, if there is cardboard with them that's in good condition, is nice and clean, I will cut it into the appropriate size pieces, and I just store it away for events like this. And I have sold easily hundreds of items like this that are on a plastic headband, and I've not had a single report of one being broken. So this is a very cheap and effective way to make sure that when this headband arrives to the customer, it is intact and in one piece. Now, certain items that might be not breakable but still need to be in a box would be something like this little hat. This is a doll hat that I made over the weekend. Now this, if I were to just stick it into a Ziploc bag, it's going to be crushed. I'll show you. So it's crushed out. Now it's flat, it'll fit in an envelope, but when your customer receives it, it's going to be wrinkled, it's not going to look very good, and it's certainly not going to impress them very much. So do you really want to have your customer have another chore on their to-do list of trying to iron something like this to get all the wrinkles out? They're not going to be very impressed with you, and they're probably not going to order from you again. So for items that don't need to be in a box necessarily, I have two options that I use. First of all, this is called a poly mailer or poly envelope. So it's a plastic-like material, and this is very durable. It won't tear like a paper envelope would. It's pretty waterproof, and they come in a lot of different sizes. They also come in different colors, but those cost more, so you have to weigh the pros and cons of spending the extra money on a plastic. The other type of envelope I frequently use is a bubble mailer. So if you can see inside here, this is lined in bubble wrap. This is something that, for something that you don't want to be just in a regular envelope, it needs a little bit of cushioning, but not as much as something breakable would require. So an example, here is a little badge rail clip. This has some plastic parts in it. They're not terribly fragile unless it's the type with the alligator clip on the back, in which case it goes in a little box. But this one travels well in this type of envelope, as does this. This is a lip balm case, and it has a plastic snap on it and some hardware. I found that this padding in this envelope is perfect for these types of items, and I have not had any issues with breakage. And speaking of the boxes, this is something we're all familiar with, the ubiquitous cardboard box. These of course come in many different sizes, shapes, price points, even different colors. I will include links in the description below this video for where I purchase all these types of products, but they come in different quantities. While it's good to not buy them individually because then you're paying full retail, you also don't want to buy a big case of 500 of these if it's going to take you 2 years or more to use them all up. So your money is being tied up in that giant box of boxes, plus you have to store them. So it's a matter of finding that sweet spot, or the amount that you need to buy. I buy these in packs of 25. So a very low amount, because most of my orders go in these other types of packaging. Another aspect of your packaging is any sort of tag or label that you put on an item. So you might have noticed earlier that there is a little hanging card on the top of this set of cat ears. This is something that is usually used for packaging necklaces. So I have this on here, and then I have printed little labels that say Animal Ears Headband, and then my my URL, and it says handmade in Palmetto, Florida. So you can determine what you would like to include on your packaging, and also what you may be required by law to put on your packaging. And that's another topic entirely that I would recommend you research that, just to protect your customers and yourself. Anyhow, here is another one. This is one of those printable business cards. I just put the item with my logo on it, and then on the back I have all the information about the product, like how to care for it, where it's made, the size, when it was made, etc. And then I just use a hole puncher, and then these little plastic things. Again, I'll put a link at the bottom because I really don't know what they're called, but these work very well. It's inexpensive, and not only it provides the customer with a lot of information about the product, especially if they're giving it as a gift, then they don't have to explain to the recipient, what is this? Since they're not the one who ordered it, they might say, what kind of animal is that, or what am I doing with this? It says right there, it's a clip-on tail. So a lot of advantages to having product packaging like that, and it's very simple. For that, I just go on the Avery.com website, and they have little templates that I just modify for my own use, and it looks great. And another one, here is one that's on this mask. These are business cards that I had printed by Vistaprint that I then just cut in half, and it works great as a tag. And that I actually got from my friend Cheryl from I Am So Not Cool Vintage. I gotta put a link to her shop below. She's awesome. She has great stuff. And then as far as the labels that go onto your packages, um, like for example on Etsy where I sell, they give you a couple options. You can print 2 labels to a page, or they have one where it's, if you have a label printer, it'll format it just for that printer or for that label size. So that's actually going to be a future video, probably my next one, because I have been using this Dymo label maker, and it has kind of crapped out on me after I think 2.5 years. So perhaps it's not designed to be used as frequently as I use it. But I have purchased a new one. Brand is Rollo. I got it on Amazon, but again, I'll do an unboxing video so you can kind of see me as I hopefully set it up without any issues. But anyhow, if you're just starting out, this would not be a wise expense, because you don't know how long you're going to be in business. Maybe it doesn't work out for you, or maybe you want to, do things a different way. So what I recommend, and this is what I did to start out, is first I just printed the labels out on my regular black and white printer on just standard copy paper, and then I just got clear packing tape and taped the labels on. If you do that, avoid putting the tape over the barcode section, because it makes it difficult for the mail carrier to scan your package, and that assists with tracking. And that's definitely something that you don't want to interfere with, because customers want to see, where their order is and when it will arrive. So anyhow, the next step up, once you've got a lot of orders going on and all the taping is starting to become very time consuming and laborious, is you can order full sheet labels. So they're the size of a regular sheet of paper, and you put those in there, and then you just, cut them out and stick it on. So that's something that doesn't require as big an investment. So once you're getting to the point where that becomes, more time consuming and cutting into your production time, then you can upgrade to something like this. Number 3 is the buyer experience. Generally, the items that people are buying off of Etsy, or just a handmade item in general, it's usually a luxury item. It's something that they're either treating themselves to, or it's a gift for somebody. And that's something that you want to continue, that happy vibe that you get when you're buying something that's a luxury, like a treat for yourself. So something like that needs to be packaged a little bit more nicely than, say, ordering a case of toilet paper off of Amazon. There's a big difference. And if you don't believe me, type unboxing videos into the search bar on YouTube, and you will see thousands upon thousands of unboxing videos. So that wouldn't be a thing if packaging was not important to customers. If they didn't care about it at all, there would be no unboxing videos. So a good example of this, if you recall the last time that you bought a cell phone, the packaging is very specific to that item. It's often molded to the exact shape of the phone and the charging cord and the other accessories that come with it. The box itself is specific to that item in its packaging. It has branding printed on it. It's very nice. Or perhaps if you've received a piece of jewelry, it comes in that nice velvet box. It often has a ribbon around it. It has a little booklet telling you about the piece, maybe how it was made, how to care for it properly, warranty information, about the company that made it. All these things are included for a reason. Now, the difference amongst all these items is price point and profit margin. If someone is buying maybe a $20 pair of earrings from you, they're not going to expect it to be packaged like a necklace from Tiffany's. But they don't want it just to be thrown into a regular paper envelope that you would send in payment for a bill. So there is definitely a happy medium there. And there are ways to do packaging that's nice and cost effective. There are lots of inexpensive ways to dress up an item. So something like jewelry, for example, most of the time it's a gift. So a customer really appreciate that already being packaged as a gift. So There are plentiful options for small jewelry boxes online, or a little organza or velvet mini drawstring bag. And then something like this is so cheap and simple. This is a roll of ribbon you can get at any craft store, even at Walmart or other discount stores. This will run you about 50 cents, and this roll has 10 yards on here. This will last you forever. Just taking a couple strands of this and wrapping it around the package, tying a bow, is going to send the message that this order was very carefully, lovingly made for this customer, and they should treasure it. And people remember this sort of thing. They really do. You may not think it's a big deal, but a lot of people remember this. If they order something from a large retailer, it's not going to be packaged like this. So it's well worth the very little money that it costs. And same goes for small Ziploc bags like this, just to protect the package. Very inexpensive, but you know that your product will not arrive, wet and dirty and gross when it's in one of these little bags. And I know a lot of people are like me and are concerned about environmental waste and things like that. An item like this can be reused. I know when I receive items in Ziploc bags, I keep them inside of a larger Ziploc bag, and I reuse them all the time. So I know not everyone will do that, but you do need to package your items. So this would, in my opinion, would be the least harmful thing, because it has the ability to be reused several times over. Another thing you should include in every order that is basically free is the invoice. Here is an invoice that you would receive on an Etsy order. I've obviously covered up the name and address of the customer here. But you can see this was printed right off of Etsy. I didn't have to design this or anything. And all I did here was I took the time to write a thank you note addressed to the customer, make sure I spelled her name correctly. And I used a nice colored pen that works with my branding. And then I just put a simple sticker on it. You can buy stickers from the Dollar Tree, so they're very inexpensive, but it just adds a nice little something that, hopefully what this conveys is that, I greatly appreciate this person's order. I'm glad they ordered from me, and I hope they enjoy it. So it's very cheap. And then also, depending on your profit margin, sometimes it's nice to include a little gift with an order. Now, most of my products are relatively inexpensive, so I have a sort of slim profit margin. So what I do is I just make these little hair ties. It's a piece of fold over elastic. It's a 9-inch piece that I just tie in a knot. So it's very simple. It's pretty inexpensive, and I just put a nice piece of washi tape to hold it on here. So it doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's just something a little special. And since my business is Orange Blossoms, I almost always use orange elastic for the hair tie to hopefully remind them, if they do use this to put their hair up, that, oh yeah, Orange Blossoms. If you are selling something that maybe has a higher price point, you might even go as far as to include a thank you card with that item, especially if it's a piece of high-end jewelry, like if you make engagement rings, or very expensive jewelry, or a piece of furniture. That would warrant spending a little bit more money, and maybe even getting something that's branded, that has your logo pre-printed on it and has a nice message in it. You may be wondering if you should include a business card with an order. This is kind of a complicated issue, because the research that I've seen indicates that almost all business cards are thrown away. And again, being someone who wants to be, conscious of the amount of waste I'm putting out into the world, I don't want to send something that just going to get thrown away, plus I have to pay for. So I actually recently stopped including business cards with my order, and don't even have them anymore. I find that the branding on my packaging is sufficient, in my opinion. Plus, since I sell on Etsy, they can log into their account and find me if they want to order from me again. And then what I used to do is I used to put the hair tie on the business card. So instead, as you can see here, I just taped it to the invoice. So makes it a lot simpler. Washi tape is a lot cheaper than a business card and less of an environmental impact. And it's just less junk for a customer. I mean, no one wants to have extra clutter lying around. And one more advantage to having nice packaging is that it's a selling point. You can put that information in your listing description. So if it's something that you're marketing as a gift, you can take a photo of what your packaging typically looks like and include that in one of the listing photos. You can describe it in your item description, how the item is packaged, and then also for practical purposes. So all of my listings say that my items are packaged in a Ziploc bag and in either a poly mailer or a box to ensure that your order arrives in perfect condition. So that's very important. I know I've received orders that were just packaged in a paper envelope. I have no idea how they even made it to me in one piece without being totally destroyed. So I thought I'd conclude by showing you how I typically package an order. And by showing you this, you can also see how quickly this is. It's not something that takes me a whole lot of time. So when I first receive the order, that's when I write the thank you note on there. And then once the item is made, it goes into a little box, the invoice. And then once it's all finished, so let's say for example, it's this pig mask. I have the tag on it, and then this goes into a Ziploc bag, and this gets sealed. Then I grab the invoice with the thank you note on it. I grab a hair tie, tape it on with some washi tape, and this entire thing just goes into the mailer here. This is hard to do with one hand, so I have to do a little bit of that off camera, but you get the idea. And then it just goes in here. I seal it up. And then the next thing is important because you want to make sure your order doesn't go to the wrong person. That happened to me a couple times, so now I'm very careful about making sure that doesn't happen. So what I do at this point, if I'm not going to be immediately printing the shipping label and sticking it on, like say I'm doing several orders at once, I will write the customer's name on the front of the envelope and then set it aside. And if you have a lot of orders or it's a common name, you might want to write out the full name or maybe the city or state that they're in, just to make sure that you're sending the correct order to the correct person. So I hope this video was helpful to you. So just to remember, your objectives in packaging are to make sure your order arrives on time and undamaged to your customer, the packaging is cost effective and does not eat into your profits, and that it looks nice and makes the customer smile. Those are all things that we would want as customers ourselves, so just keep that in mind when you're packing an order. Is this something that I would want to receive? Links to the products that I have featured in this video will be in the description box down below. Remember, if you haven't already, to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with any crafty friends who you think would enjoy the content. Thanks for watching.